Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the World Championship Series Global Finals. We are live from Burbank, California, bright and early to kick off the round of 16 as we make our way to 8 players competing at BlizzCon next weekend in Anaheim. I'm Nathanius. I'll be your host throughout the course of our matches here for the Global Finals. I am joined today by 3 esteemed gentlemen in the esports industry, and especially StarCraft II. Jeff In Control Robinson, how are you, good sir?
I'm good, Nate. Would you say I'm the most esteemed?
If I were to think who would destroy me harder in a game of StarCraft, probably this man right here, Kevin Rotterdam Vanderkoy. How are you doing today?
Segue.
Well, after that little comment, Nate, I'm suddenly feeling a lot better.
Wow.
Still a little early, but I'm super excited to be here. It's going to be so much fun. Can't wait to watch some StarCraft with my friends. It's going to be so fun.
Thank you, Kevin.
And last but not the least esteemed, our Korean representative.
Not the least esteemed.
Dan Artosis.
How
are you?
My friend Roddy would just kill me in StarCraft. I'm like, what about me? I kill you in StarCraft too. But I mean, this is great, man. It's the WCS Global Finals. We got like such good players here. The storylines are out of control. We actually have a foreigner or two that might be able to win the tournament.
It's the hope every time.
It is.
It is the hope.
But it keeps getting closer, man.
Laser did a great job last year. I mean, and I don't think, you know, I was kind of putting myself back to last year. None of us were sitting here going, Laser is the guy. But he emerged, and it was cool. And then this year, Laser was the guy, one of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of competition taking place. I think a lot of people very excited to see who makes it, especially of our foreign competitors. Big stories following guys like Neeb, who had quite a year getting here. And of course, we did have an interesting year last year with the way that things shaped up in BlizzCon. Just to go over everything that kind of happened, anything that stuck out to you from last year. I think the most notable thing being our champion from last year not being here this weekend.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's too bad. He came really close to qualifying at the end and just barely fell short in Super Tournament. But just last year overall, what a sick season. And Byun was maybe the greatest story we've ever had in StarCraft in 19 years.
I loved his evolution, even at BlizzCon, where I always go back to his match against Showtime, where we're so impressed with Showtime in the group stage, beating him. But then later for the story to emerge that Byun pulls him aside and says, hey, that was amazing. Do you mind practicing with me so I can get ready for tomorrow? And just to be at the level of Byun, and even Korean versus non-Korean, to go to that level and be like, hey, here's a weakness, I need to work on this, to fix it, and then win the tournament and win over $200,000, that's an amazing story. And this is a guy who wears his heart on his sleeve, and it's just, you know, he'll be sorely missed here, but he represents a lot of what I love about StarCraft.
Yeah, I think it was a magical tournament overall. The finals were great, but the foreigners also set the bar really high for themselves for this year. I mean, last year, a lot of people were coming very critical into the tournament.
Yeah.
Some people even said the entire top 8 is going to be only Koreans. But we actually had a really good showing by, like you just said, Showtime winning his group. Neeb advanced from his group, which we kind of expected because he won Casper Cup back then. But that's still impressive. And then obviously Laser making it all the way to the semis. That was really good. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be just as good or even better for those guys this year, because the Koreans are looking incredibly strong coming into this tournament.
Yep, that's right. Quite a few foreign powerhouses and some very dominant players coming out of Korea this year. It has been an exciting year of StarCraft. We've gone all over the world with the WCS circuit events. Of course, we had our highest level of play taking place in Korea all year as well. Were there any standout moments for you this year, guys?
I mean, this year was so good with the amount of tournaments, especially for the Korean players. For me personally, you know, we had 9 WCS events, and it was like just watching the storylines. Innovation won 4 WCS events in Korea. Like, has that ever happened before? Like, do we actually have a StarCraft II Bonjour right now? I don't know, man. It's pretty crazy though, and stats being so solid all year long. This meteoric rise of Rogue at the end of the year as well.
Rogue seems to be like the hot hand, but Innovation was the most accomplished, and then Stats had like one of the most solid year-long runs. So they're all here, they're all looking good. For the foreigner scene, I think it's interesting because I go back to, you know, Kevin and I had the pleasure of joining you guys in Korea for GSL versus the World. And that was like it's a little bit of a thorn on our side where we're like, foreigners, man, they're getting a lot better this year. Then that tournament happens and we're like, maybe not. Maybe this is just another BlizzCon where we get hyped up, and the Koreans are like, actually, who's the best Korean? Of course, I hope that's not the case. And these guys, we had some cool stuff. Like Cyril and a few of these guys went to Korea and trained and did very well. Played on that ladder, played in the Korean atmosphere. So the table's set. It's ready to be exciting. It's just about who's going to execute.
Yeah, and I think even though GSL vs. World maybe was in the end dominated by the Koreans, I think a couple of the series, I mean, we did get our hopes up. Showtime was up 2-0, Special was up 2-0, and even Neep put up a really good fight against TY. That was one hell of a series.
Yeah.
But I think what stood out for me the most is the way that Innovation won his tournaments. Like, he didn't often just win, but if Innovation gets this kind of mood going, it's just like, okay, he's actually untouchable, and you know he's going to win this tournament.
Yeah.
You already see it by the quarterfinals. Okay, if this is the Inno we're dealing with, he's going to win. And like when he won SSL, how casual. Like I've never seen a man win a tournament that casually where he took off his glasses, looked around, he's like, okay, can I go now? You know, it was awesome.
It almost harkened back to the MLG days when people weren't sure if they won with the extended series and everything.
Very, very dominating performances. And
But he knew. He
knew. You guys talk about a lot of these players, of course. 16 of them are competing here this weekend. Half of them will go home before we make it to BlizzCon next week. We have 4 groups, GSL style, double elimination, best of 3s, making their way to the big stage, as it were, at these groups, man. It's not going to be easy. They're playing for quite a bit, though. $700,000 in total prize pool.
Quite a bit, Nate.
Quite a bit of money, I'd say.
You start the show with, "Good morning, ladies," and then you're like, it's quite a bit of money. It's a $700,000 prize pool.
It's a pretty penny, for sure.
Well, let's not get too hyped about it.
No.
Well,
It's quite $1 million.
We're gonna pull it up. We're gonna take a look at the overall spread in just a moment here. You got to start off with the bank. 280 grand, Robbie,
There's that
for
energy,
first
Nate.
place.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, Nate. That is
It's
an insane
amazing.
amount of money. We've never seen it in StarCraft II. And I mean, just the difference. Like, I think semifinals, normally you feel really good about it. And $42,000 is insane.
All of this.
But then knowing that
Just
the guy...
losing is $14,000.
You go
I could have
0-4
done
today?
that.
No, seriously. You enter me in this tournament, I will go 0-4, 14 grand.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Show me the money.
That's sick.
Yeah, so a lot.
It's
to
amazing.
Be,
It's beautiful.
Yeah, a lot to be played for here. Even the players just making it this far is a huge accomplishment. You get a lot for it. And, well, we did have a lot of tournaments that brought us here with a lot of money that was spread out over the course of the year. Things started off pretty hot. GSL, I think, one of the most legendary tournaments in StarCraft II, Artosis.
Oh, yeah. I mean, GSL this year was just crazy. The return of Sue. Like, I mean, this is the guy who had 4 back-to-back GSL Code S finals years ago. But here this year again, he got 2 in a row right at the beginning, you know, gained so many WCS points. But in this first one where Stats took him down, like, I was a little bit nervous going into this one, right? It's like, okay, Stats is actually a second-place guy, and so is Sue. But, you know, Stats, after a ridiculously good start to the year, you know, second place in Gyeonggi, second place in Katowice, wins GSL Code S Season 1, and kind of started his reign of dominance this year that ended him in first place in WCS ranked Korea.
Almost trading his couple strings of second places with Sue's there, and he'd be very cautious. And then we moved on to Season 2.
Oh, man. Season 2, 10 years or something Gumiho has been playing StarCraft. It's just forever. He's been around since the very beginning.
Sweating it up,
And
man.
then who does he get in the finals but Sue, right?
Well, of course. I mean, that's
well,
scripted.
This is such a story at this point. Like, Sue has played in something like 20% of GSL finals. It's a crazy thing, but it's some
He puts the S in
absurdly
GSL, I think.
high. Yeah, no, it's the global Sue League. Like, who is going to be able to play against him next? But I mean, Gumiho really revolutionized everything this season. He made a new style of mech that Terrans to this day are still using.
It's not even just mech, just as a player. He's just such a craftsman and such a difficult opponent. A lot of offbeat timings.
And what crazy was about that GSL as well is that I felt that all the other guys, they were looking so good. You know, Maro looked good, Dark looked so good. And right on that moment, Gumiho won, which was somebody that I don't think many people would have picked in the beginning of the season. But seeing him in was definitely damn awesome.
Well, Season 3 brought us back to complete normalcy, right? It goes SOS, he's fighting for a BlizzCon spot, which, well, spoiler alert, he didn't make it. Innovation taking down yet another GSL title, tying himself with MVP for the all-time record. He has 4 GSL championships at this point. He's just, I mean, this kid is unstoppable and definitely one of the big favorites for BlizzCon to win the whole thing.
He was my pick a little while ago, but there's just been some well, you already used the word meteoric. It's just, we're not going to pass around too much, but Rogue, man, he's looking hot as well.
Oh, yeah.
But Innovation's way up there.
Yeah.
Scary.
Truly a legend of StarCraft II. He's been dominating for years and years. Had ups and downs, but you always see Innovation name coming up. I personally...
When was the last time he
Terrans do
wasn't a top 2 Terran?
Yeah.
When was the last time he was not a top 2 Terran? When he didn't play StarCraft II.
Hang on.
Before he
hang
played
on.
the game.
Yes.
I believe
Actually.
Artosis posed a question to himself and then answered it live on air.
Well, I looked at your guys' eyes, and you guys couldn't figure it out, so I took over the reins
I was just trying to say
That's good that you did that, because that all happened in a matter of like 3 seconds. So that's impressive.
Well, you know, I have a good read
Question.
on you guys.
I'm just here to get hype and then not get hype. But then following GSL, of course, alongside in Korea, we had SSL.
Yeah. And SSL was kind of a repeat from GSL, right? Innovation, the first season. It was kind of a cool format, right? Like round robin the entire time. Everyone plays everyone else, and then we go into a bracket little playoff stage with tiers. Innovation 7-2s everyone, and then just crushes Solar in the finals 4-1 and wins another championship. Here's that moment, Roddy.
This is my favorite moment of the year.
I suppose I've finished this one.
It's like waiting for him to leave.
They've ran out of opponents.
That's his celebration right there, guys. He's like, 2 championships. I'm like, no. At this point, you had won 3 championships this year, Innovation.
Like, oh, sorry, I lost track.
But no, I mean, he just
put it?
crushed this first season. And then, of course, season 2, the other guy that has been destroying it in Korea won his second tournament, Stats. He also went 7-2 through the round robin stage. Ended up beating Dark in the finals, but that was a pretty close one.
What a year it's been for Stats as well. Like you said, from the very beginning with multiple second places in a couple of the other tournaments, but then also winning the 2 big tournaments.
No, it's such a big deal, too. If you look at his overall year, the way that he got first place, because everyone talked about Innovation more than Stats. But actually, right, we have 9 WCS tournaments. He got 2 first places, 2 second places, and 2 top 4s. It's like there was not a tournament without Stats at the end.
And the big difference is that in the past, we often praise Stats as well, but Stats was the semi-finals guy, right? He had a lot of top 4 finishes, but he never won a big tournament, and this year he really switched that around. Just looks so much better, so much more complete.
Figured it out.
Yeah.
Greater understanding of the game.
He's
an amazing understanding of the game.
The greatest defensive Protoss. It's like him and Rain are the
Rain,
2 people of all time now, where we just have to look at it. It's like,
hang on, I think all of us are like ultimate Rain fanboys.
I believe he is the greatest defensive Protoss.
You ask yourself a question and gave
I did.
I think I call myself more
on.
of a Gumiho fanboy, but on the other side, or I guess I should say everywhere else in the world, the WCS circuit took its stops. We went all over to Austin, Jönköping, Valencia, and Montreal with other events mattered here and there. There were a lot of good games played and a whole lot of Neeb.
You want to take this one too, Toast?
No, let me just, I want to do the whole show.
Tell me how much you love Neeb, Artosis.
I want to cast the games from this spot too. No, I love Neeb, man. He's good, but we're doing Katowice first,
You
right?
were there?
Yeah, I was there as well. And I mean, there's Stats getting a second place. I mean, this is we're doing these in chunks, so this is like kind of out of order chronologically, but
this was a sick tournament though. This was probably my favorite tournament of the entire year. I loved everything about it. I loved the open brackets as well. We gotta give a shout out to Apollo for that one. Apollo did a great job working at
I
Retribution.
remember him. You actually have said that name. That's
he was such a good host last year.
The yellow sucks though. Does anybody else miss?
Well, it's a European thing. You know, he brings in that color.
And of course, then we went to Austin, where things started to the tide began to roll for our Protoss American.
Names started to emerge, and that's what the WCS system kind of brings forth. Is it creates these storylines. You get to see the progression of these guys this year, and it was neat from close to the very beginning. We knew he was strong last year going into BlizzCon. We had a lot of hype around him as the foreigner hope. But this year, it seems to, much like Stats, have turned a corner where it's like he's not just strong and a threat to win tournaments. It's disappointing when he doesn't. I mean, we'll get to it, but when he loses one of these 4 WCS tournaments, it was a disappointment. Everyone talked about it, but all the others were business as usual. It was amazing.
Yeah, the second stop was in Jönköping. I think of the 4 WCS circuit events, that was my favorite one, Nate. It had such a good finals between Sero and Neeb. Sero winning 2 challenges in a row. Really had a lot of hype and momentum going into that series. You know, both of them couldn't look more uninterested on stage, but as soon as they got into the game, they really gave us an amazing final, and I loved it.
And of course, during all of this, we had GSL versus the world, as you guys touched upon a little bit earlier.
Dude, and you know, I was talking before about how he won won 4 WCS tournaments. This one wasn't for points, but he won this one too. And he won a VSL, which is another offline league we have. So actually, this is one of the 6 tournaments that Innovation crushed this year, which is... I mean,
actually did crush, by the way. When he won matches, we kept getting hyped about who was going to face Innovation, because we're like, this is the guy that's looking good enough to do that, and then they hit Innovation, and Innovation just has 35 more Marines than his opponent.
I actually think like the toughest match he had was the side event where he played against Serral, that best of 1 on Newkirk, I think it was. That was an amazing game.
That might have been.
In the Korea versus GSL, but Innovation looked untouchable that
event. And
of
course we had DreamHack Valencia, where a laser emerged victorious, the only person who would win one of these circuit events other than Neeb this year.
And Nate, you ate a slug at this tournament, I heard.
Yeah, we had some good paella in Spain. It was a good time.
Are you a big slug fan then?
No.
Okay.
No Slug Dandies here. And then things finished up as we went off to another final where another Neeb victory came out in Montreal.
And this one was an interesting one as well, because very quietly in the background, I mean, we can talk more about Neeb, but let's not. It's Snoot, and Snoot has been one of the big household names throughout, every year of StarCraft II, basically. And he's here again, and he qualified, made it here, and has been training in Korea, looking very strong, but nobody is talking about him. Now, when you don't talk about Snoot is when Snoot becomes the most dangerous. Now, he has TY later today, so I don't know how...
That's a tough
It could be one of those things where we're like, Snoot, you guys. Then in the match is over in 25 minutes, we're like, never mind. All right? Never mind. But
Snoot versus Stara,
Snoot, you guys.
I mean, Snoot versus Stara, and everybody got crazy over that Shoutcraft match he played against Innovation.
Yeah, but it's TY, man.
Yeah, but that was Innovation.
This is TY, though, man.
That was Innovation.
We'll be able to dive into this a little bit more later, guys. It's okay. We do have the groups ready for those of you curious as to see the way things are going to flow today, as we will begin with Group A, featuring Stats, Special, TY, and Snoot, as we were just discussing. And we'll also be going through the first few matches of Group B with Sue, Nurchio, Rogue, and Neeb, that 3-time WCS champion. Following that, in Group C, later we shall see Dark, Kelizer, Hero, and a Laser, the only other WCS circuit event champion. And then Group D with Innovation, True, Gumiho, and Serral. Those two big Korean Terran Titans.
Someone out there right now in Las Vegas is turning in their ticket where it says True Champion of BlizzCon, and they're like, yeah.
He's got tough.
With a name like that, you can't be wrong.
Like, the guy's saying, he's like, yeah, this is like 150 to 1 bet. You want to take it? And he's like, it's all I've got. And it's Mike Morheim. It's just going to be this like amazing story. Billionaire turns trillionaire.
Interesting tale you've spun here, Jeff. But so you look at these groups. Does any of these stand out in particular to you? Anything that jumps out?
I'm excited about Group A. Group A is very balanced. I know that sounds like the casting, Jeff. That's what we're doing right now. It's like, I'm so excited about it. But honestly, top down, all 4 of them. I guess we call it the group of death or something like that, just because I could see all 4 of these players emerging pretty realistically. The final group, I want to be excited about it because I am on the Serral hype train again, but I feel like True is one of the weaker opponents here. He's one of the bigger wild cards, so he could do some damage. But last year when we were like, that guy's the wild card, that was the guy that went, like, it was like Violet. Like, Violet went out super hard. So.
No, I agree with you there. Like, Group A overall, I feel like the 2 dark horses of the entire tournament for me are Special and Snoot. I feel like either one of them could make a big splash here, but they're not even favored to get out of their group. So it's like this really weird group because TY and Stats, I mean, TY and Stats.
I'm like really bothered because I actually agree with what you just said. Like,
you guys are
said dark horse,
diving in.
and I was like, damn,
you guys are diving into this Group A, and I'll get your thoughts in a second, Kev. We do have the schedule for you guys to see the matches that are going to be coming up.
Look pretty.
So we will be starting off with Stats facing off against Special, and then we'll be going into TY playing versus Snoot.
Kevin, what do you think about the schedule so far?
Hold on, no, I'm going to take this.
So, Kev, tell me, what's got you excited from our group?
Obviously, all 4 groups are awesome, but I'm actually super excited for Group B because it has Rogue, I think the hottest player coming in from Korea right now.
Yeah, he looks really good.
Against our hottest player, the guy who won 3 WCS championships. So, Neeb versus Rogue that is an amazing match. That's a match that we could have seen maybe in the playoffs as well. And obviously, there is pressure on Neeb. I think last year he had pressure because he won Casper Cup, but I think this year we all think we've seen a much more complete Neeb throughout the year. You know, Neeb is not just good in PvP. Neeb is incredibly solid overall. He has to be really good in PvZ in this group because it has 3 Zergs in it. But yeah, I'm super stoked
Which
for
works
it.
to his advantage, by the way. The other 3 Zergs most likely I mean, Rogue practiced a lot of ZVP going into this, but they focused on ZVT and a little bit of ZVP, but that was probably their focus. I mean, that's the way it usually works out. We'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting day of StarCraft action. We have a lot of games coming your way. We're going to be getting into our first match very shortly. It's going to be Stats versus Special. We'll be right back with the World Championship Series Global Finals.